The uncertainty of our times begs a critical question. Is your state prepared for what's coming? As concerns grow over SHTF scenarios and the stability of our nation's infrastructure, the need for preppers to take action is more urgent than ever. These are the first 8 states that will collapse when SHTF. You won't want to miss this. First up, the Big Apple itself, New York. Picture this. The lights go out, the water stops flowing, and suddenly your favorite pizza place and corner store are out of business. Yikes. Here's the thing. New York City has a ton of people, over 8 million, and they rely on a constant stream of supplies. They don't have their own farms or gardens. They're about as self-sufficient as a goldfish in a bowl. Sure, New York might be the king of cabbage production, but that cabbage won't magically appear on your plate in a crisis. When things get desperate, people get hungry. Think what would happen when desperate mobs head out of the city, searching for anything to eat. Not a fun picture. New York already has a reputation for being a tough city, and a full-blown collapse would only make things worse. We're talking fast and furious, not in a cool way. The once bustling city of dreams could quickly turn into a dystopian nightmare. Here's what you shouldn't do in New York during a crisis. Relying on the city's infrastructure. In a crisis, the things you normally take for granted, electricity, running water, transportation, might not be there. Having a plan B is crucial. Also, don't expect food and supplies to magically appear. Grocery stores won't be restocked, and help from outside sources might be slow to arrive. Having a stockpile of non-perishable food, water, and essential supplies can make a big difference. However, if you do want to be prepared in the Big Apple, consider having a stockpile of non-perishable food and water. Aim for enough to last your family at least a few weeks. And please don't forget about things like medications and hygiene products. Also, learn basic survival skills like gardening or first aid. Knowing how to grow your own food or treat basic injuries can be invaluable in a crisis situation. There are many online resources and classes available to help you learn these skills. Think about having a plan to get out of the city if necessary. If things get really bad, it might be best to evacuate the city. Talk to your family about where you would go and how you would get there. Consider having a bug-out bag packed with essential supplies in case you need to leave in a hurry. Next up on our list is Alaska. Now you might be scratching your head and thinking, Alaska? Really? Isn't that place all about self-reliance and living off the land? You're not wrong. Alaska is the polar opposite of somewhere like California, with sprawling cities and concrete jungles. Up in Alaska, it's all about the rugged, self-sufficient lifestyle. These folks are hardcore. Many are hunters, comfortable navigating the wilderness. They're not sitting around waiting for Amazon Prime to deliver their next bottle of water. They've got that pioneering spirit, using their environment to survive. Here's the but, and it's a big one. Even with all that independence, Alaska has a weak spot. Despite their self-sufficiency, Alaskans rely on the outside world more than you might think. We're talking about essential supplies like gasoline and heating oil, not to mention a big chunk of their food and practically all the manufactured goods you can imagine. Sure, supplementing your diet with a freshly caught fish or some wild game sounds awesome, but farming in Alaska is a whole different story. Thanks to the harsh climate and a growing season that's more of a fleeting glimpse than a full-fledged summer, growing grains, fruits, and vegetables is a Herculean task. True self-sufficiency in terms of food production is a tough nut to crack in the last frontier. Now, don't expect Alaska to turn into a scene from a dystopian movie, with riots erupting the moment things go south. That's not really their style. But even with their resourcefulness, if a major crisis hits, Alaska will feel the squeeze. Imagine a few weeks without fresh food deliveries and dwindling fuel supplies. Even those tough-as-nails Alaskans will be in a tough spot. When in Alaska, don't rely solely on wild game and fish for food. While hunting and fishing are valuable skills to have in Alaska, they can't be your only source of food in a crisis. Wildlife populations can fluctuate, and hunting regulations may change during emergencies. Additionally, hunting and fishing require specific skills and equipment, which may not be readily available to everyone. Also, don't assume you can easily grow your own food. Alaska's harsh climate with short growing seasons and permafrost in many areas makes large-scale agriculture challenging. However, There are steps you can take to improve your food security. Consider growing vegetables in greenhouses or raised beds, which can extend your growing season and protect plants from the elements. Look into crops that are better suited to Alaska's climate, such as cold weather vegetables like kale, cabbage, and potatoes. Even small-scale gardening efforts can supplement your diet and provide fresh produce. Be sure to stockpile essential supplies, though. This includes a minimum of several months' worth of non-perishable food, water, medication, and fuel. Remember, fuel is crucial for transportation, heating, and even cooking in some parts of Alaska. Consider alternative fuel sources like propane for cooking and heating if possible. Invest in alternative heating sources if you can. Consider options like wood-burning stoves or solar panels to lessen your dependence on outside fuel sources. Wood burning can provide heat and can also be used for cooking. Solar panels can generate electricity to power essential appliances and lights. Now we have Louisiana. This state is no stranger to Mother Nature's fury, particularly hurricanes and floods. The reason? Its unique location. A large chunk of Louisiana is low-lying, and the coastline is constantly battling erosion and storm surges. It's like living on the edge, and keeping things safe takes constant work. Here's the problem. As the coastline erodes, we lose those marshy wetlands that act like nature's flood barriers. This leaves areas further inland even more exposed to flooding. Cities like New Orleans, which are already below sea level, are especially at risk during hurricane season. They have a complex system of levees and flood control measures in place, but even those can be overwhelmed by extreme weather. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in Louisiana is ignoring evacuation orders. This is a recipe for disaster. When an evacuation order is issued, don't take it lightly. It's there to save lives. Have a plan in place. Know your evacuation route and designated assembly point. Don't wait until the last minute to leave. The roads will be jammed and you could get caught in the storm. Also, never underestimate flood risks. Living in a flood-prone area comes with inherent risks. Don't assume you'll be okay just because you haven't flooded before. Take flood warnings seriously. If you live in a flood-prone area, consider elevating your home or purchasing flood insurance. Disaster preparedness is key when living in Louisiana. Assemble a hurricane preparedness kit that includes essential supplies like non-perishable food, water, first aid supplies, flashlights, batteries, a radio, tools, and personal hygiene products. Develop a communication plan with your family in case you get separated during a storm. Now this one might surprise you. Texas. It's a land of wide open spaces, big cities, and, you guessed it, big weather events. This vast and populous state faces a range of environmental threats that can get even worse during disasters. Hurricanes are a major concern along the Gulf Coast. Cities like Houston have to be especially prepared for flooding from storm surges and heavy rain. Texas also experiences the other extreme, intense heat waves and droughts. These can put a huge strain on water resources and make wildfires more likely. When in Texas, make sure you do not ignore the heat. Heat waves are no joke in Texas. Stay hydrated and avoid spending too much time outdoors during the hottest part of the day. If you have to be outside, wear loose-fitting, lightweight clothing and protect yourself from the sun. Speaking of heat, also make sure to take the fire safety seriously. Texas has a lot of rural and wildland areas, which means wildfires are a constant threat. Always be careful with fire, especially during dry periods. Clear brush and debris around your home to create a fire break and have a fire extinguisher handy. Texas cities are growing fast, and all that sprawl can make it harder to respond to disasters. However, there are ways to build cities that are more resilient. Look for communities that are incorporating green infrastructure and sustainable building practices. These features can help cities bounce back from disasters more quickly. When preparing, make sure to prepare for all types of weather. Texas has a diverse climate, so you need to be prepared for anything. Assemble a disaster preparedness kit that includes supplies for both extreme heat and flooding. Consider investing in a portable generator in case of power outages. Be water-wise in Texas. Droughts are a reality in Texas, so it's important to conserve water whenever possible. Fix leaky faucets, take shorter showers, and water your lawn less often. You can also explore ways to collect rainwater for irrigation. Texas might be a big state with big challenges, but there are also big solutions. By taking proactive steps and working together, Texans can build stronger, more resilient communities. Like its neighbors along the Gulf Coast, Mississippi has to be prepared for hurricanes and flooding. These storms can be devastating, and the effects can be even worse in communities with high poverty rates. Limited access to healthcare, especially in rural areas, adds another layer of complexity to disaster response and recovery. Don't ignore flood warnings when in Mississippi, especially if you live in a low-lying area. Storm surges and heavy rainfall can cause major flooding quickly. Pay attention to weather forecasts and evacuation orders and have a plan in place to get to higher ground if necessary. Disaster preparedness is a team effort. Work with your neighbors to develop a community-based response plan. This plan should include evacuation routes, communication strategies, and ways to help vulnerable populations like the elderly or those with disabilities. Consider holding neighborhood meetings to discuss potential risks and brainstorm solutions. Think about how you can check on each other after a disaster, especially if someone has limited mobility or relies on medical equipment. Strong community networks are crucial for recovery. Get to know your neighbors and build relationships. Organize potlucks, block parties, or other social events to get to know the people who live around you. Offer to help those in need and be willing to accept help in return. Look for opportunities to volunteer with local organizations that are working on disaster preparedness initiatives. You could also consider getting involved in your local government and advocating for policies that promote disaster resilience, such as investments in levees, storm shelters, and public transportation. Also, try investing in healthcare. Access to healthcare is important during any crisis, but especially after a disaster. Support efforts to improve healthcare infrastructure and expand access to essential services in underserved areas. This could involve volunteering at local clinics, donating to healthcare charities, or contacting your elected officials to voice your support for increased funding for rural healthcare programs. Consider taking a first aid and CPR course so that you can help others in your community in the event of a disaster. Vibrant culture, stunning scenery, and a strong sense of community. What's not to love about Hawaii, the Aloha State? But hold on a sec, because when things go sideways, Hawaii's situation gets a little tricky, similar to Alaska, but with its own island twist. Don't get us wrong, Hawaii has a leg up on Alaska when it comes to agriculture. Those fields of sugarcane and iconic pineapples scream island hospitality. However, these crops aren't exactly the foundation of a balanced diet. Sure, they're great for a snack or a pina colada, but they won't sustain you in a crisis. The good news is that Hawaii's sunny climate makes it more feasible to create your own year-round garden. There are even resources available to help you become a green thumb guru, transforming your backyard into a mini Eden, no matter where you live in the US. Here's the thing though, Hawaii is an urban hub, with a whopping 80% of its population living in cities. Think California or Florida, densely populated areas. Imagine the moment the supply chain breaks and goods from the mainland stop arriving. These urban paradises could face rapid collapse and chaos. It wouldn't be pretty. Another challenge for Hawaii is its location. Stuck smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by miles of water. Alaska might have its issues, but you could theoretically walk to Canada if things got really bad. Hawaii, not so much. If you find yourself on the islands when things go south, you're in for the long haul. No quick escapes here. When in Hawaii, don't rely solely on imported food. Hawaii has some local agriculture. Still, it imports a large percentage of its food. In a crisis, relying solely on imported food could leave you vulnerable. Stock up on a minimum of several months' worth of non-perishable food items with a long shelf life. Focus on a variety of nutritious options that can be easily prepared without refrigeration or special cooking equipment. Learn basic food preservation techniques like canning, drying, or fermenting to extend the shelf life of your food stores and any harvest you might get from your garden. Also, again, don't expect to find everything you need readily available. In a crisis situation, basic necessities might be in short supply. Don't wait until the last minute to stock up on essential items. Create a comprehensive disaster preparedness kit that includes things like non-perishable food, water, medication, first aid supplies, sanitation items, flashlights, batteries, a radio, tools, and personal hygiene products. Consider the specific needs of your family and any pets you might have. Do learn to grow your own food. Hawaii's climate allows for year-round gardening. Take advantage of this by learning how to grow your own fruits, vegetables, and herbs. There are many resources available online and in your community to help you get started. Consider attending workshops or classes offered by local gardening clubs or agricultural extension services. Focus on crops that are well suited to Hawaii's climate and that are easy to care for. Even a small balcony garden can provide some fresh produce and herbs to support your diet. Also, make sure to build a strong community network. Having a network of supportive neighbors can be invaluable in a crisis. Get to know your neighbors and discuss potential challenges and solutions together. Consider forming a neighborhood watch group or barter system to share resources and skills. Look for opportunities to get involved in local community preparedness initiatives. The next state we have is Florida, the Sunshine State. You might be wondering how Florida fares when things go south. Well, despite the political differences between Florida and California, they share some vulnerabilities in a crisis scenario. First things first, Florida is no stranger to Mother Nature's wrath. Instead of earthquakes and wildfires, Floridians have to contend with hurricanes, and these storms are no joke. They hit hard and fast, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Another factor to consider is Florida's population density. The state is even more densely populated than California, with everyone crammed together. However, unlike California, Florida has a smaller overall population. Here's the key takeaway. A whopping 87% of Florida's residents live in urban areas. This translates to a heavy reliance on goods shipped in from elsewhere. If those supply lines get disrupted, things could get chaotic quickly. Remember, we're all just 3 missed meals away from anarchy, as the saying goes. Now, some of you might be thinking, I'll just store all my emergency supplies in the basement and be good to go. Hold on there, sunshine. Storing your stockpile in a Florida basement is like ice skating in the Everglades, a terrible idea. There are some real reasons why turning your basement into a personal grocery store is a recipe for disaster. Florida's basements are notorious for flooding. A hurricane or even heavy rain could ruin your carefully prepared stockpile. Find a safe and dry location above ground to store your emergency supplies. Consider investing in waterproof containers to protect your supplies from moisture and humidity. Also, if you're in Florida, invest in hurricane preparedness. Florida is hurricane-prone, so it's crucial to be prepared. Develop a hurricane plan for your family, including evacuation routes and a designated meeting place if you become separated. Assemble a hurricane preparedness kit that includes essential supplies like non-perishable food, water, first aid supplies, flashlights, batteries, a radio, tools, and personal hygiene products. Also, if you live in a low-lying area or a flood-prone zone, consider alternative housing options during hurricane season. This might involve staying with friends or family in a higher elevation area or investing in a storm shelter. And believe it or not, last but not least, California, the land of sunshine, celebrities, and disasters. Now, this might not come as a surprise, but California has a reputation for flirting with danger. Earthquakes, wildfires, and even the threat of tsunamis are just part of the package deal when you live in the Golden State. But those are just the beginning. California has a whole laundry list of issues that make it a bit vulnerable in a major crisis. Let's break it down. Population-wise, it isn't like you're rubbing shoulders with everyone everywhere you go. It's not exactly on the level of cozy closeness like New Jersey or Rhode Island. However, here's the twist. California lands at number 17 for population density, yet it's also one of the most populated states overall. This mix of spread out but still massively populated creates a recipe for vulnerability. Then there's the whole big city vibes thing. Places like San Diego and Los Angeles rely heavily on Northern California's water supply, to the tune of a whopping 90%. Imagine those lifelines drying up. We're talking about chaos faster than you can say drought. San Francisco, though smaller and blessed with cool, damp weather, isn't much better off. Over 85% of its water travels all the way from the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir in Yosemite, some 150 miles east. If that tap gets turned off, San Francisco is in for a world of hurt, just like its larger cousins. To top it all off, California has a target painted on its back. Silicon Valley and the San Francisco Bay Area are the heartthrobs of the global tech scene. An EMP attack wouldn't just spell trouble for California, it could be a knockout blow to the U.S. economy. And let's not forget the state's already shaky infrastructure. A major crisis could send the whole system crashing down like a house of cards. So what's the game plan? The golden rule here is to have your bags packed and your gas tank full, ready to hit the road at a moment's notice. Leaving before things go sideways might seem like the key, but there's a more long-term strategy that could save you major headaches. One of these strategies is not relying on the urban infrastructure. California's major cities rely heavily on a complex infrastructure network for basic necessities like water and electricity. In a crisis, these systems could be compromised. Consider alternative solutions for water purification and power generation, such as rainwater harvesting systems and solar panels. Also, don't assume the food supply will always be readily available. California relies heavily on imported food. A major disruption to transportation networks could quickly lead to food shortages. Consider growing your own food through gardening or connecting with local farms that offer community-supported agriculture, CSA programs. If you live in a highly populated urban area, consider alternative living options outside of major cities. Look into rural areas with a lower population density and a stronger sense of community. Make sure to learn basic survival skills. Knowing basic survival skills like first aid, water purification, and fire building can be invaluable in a crisis. There are many online resources and classes available to help you learn these skills. Consider taking a wilderness survival course or a disaster preparedness workshop offered by your local community or government agencies. Speaking of surviving, click the video on screen now to learn about the 17 items you can't be without in a disaster.